I'll share my screen. Somebody let me know when you see a title page for the presentation, please.
We see it.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank
Got
you. We may have some more to join, but we'll go ahead and get started. Alyssa, if you want to, are you recording? Okay, good. Well, welcome everyone. This is our first official session. We've had some communications and kickoff call and so forth, and some of the information today will be re-emphasizing or repeat of some of the stuff we looked at before, maybe from a little different angle, but this is our first group session of many to come of our cohort. Glad to get this going and really appreciate your all's interest, and thank you, Bill, for helping put this together. Today is an introduction and overview session. We'll really look at the 50,001 Ready tool in some detail. We'll talk a little bit about some background information, and then we'll discuss each of the 25 tasks in 50,001 Ready a little bit. And then we always have some review questions. And if you see this little lightning bolt on a slide, you may just want to note that bit of information because it means you might see it again later in the presentation. And we always have, we'll be looking ahead at the end, what's coming next. Data collection is very important. What data collection items are coming or already out there. And we always have some time for question and answer for sure. So that's our agenda for today. Again, just like to welcome everyone back from our kickoff call. And again, this is an 8-month calendar, 8 calendar months, really about 9 since we go over the holiday into 2025 a little bit. We'll have 8 of these 2-hour webinar sessions about every 4 weeks. And in between, we'll have one-on-one calls, which we're in the process of getting those times set up, which we'll talk about that a little bit too. And again, the focus of this is strategic energy management based on the ISO 50001 standard. 2018 version is the most recent version, and using that, the intent of that standard and the shalls in that standard, along with the 50001 Ready tool, which is very big on implementation. So the standard says you shall do this, but it doesn't give you much more information other than a requirement. And what 50001 Ready tool, it was really developed with implementation in mind. It helps you understand the who, the when, the how often, the how much to meet the intent of that shall in the standard. So it's very implementation and boots on the ground and practical application focused in the tool. So that's why it's very useful to help people interpret the standard and apply the principles of the 50001 standard. So we just want to make sure everybody's safe. If you're in a building or at home, just make sure you know your exit pass if there's any kind of evacuation required. And you're welcome to ask any questions at any time. We have a small group. Please, we love to discuss things. And if you have any questions at any time, please ask. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself so the background and recording sound will be the best. And again, we are recording the session, and we'll send out a link to the recording and the slide deck within a couple days after today's session. So in case anyone misses it or wants to review back over anything, you'll have that available. There's the support for the cohort is good. You have a very strong central office with Bill, and Constellium supports this cohort very much, and you all will get support at your sites. The 50001 Ready Navigator is owned now and operated by Lawrence Berkeley Labs. It was initially written by Department of Energy with Georgia Tech, and then turned over the content, and the web browser-based tool was turned over to Lawrence Berkeley Labs, where they run it, and they manage the program of all these cohorts that we're doing. At any given time, there's probably 6 or 8 cohorts going on nationally. We usually have 2 or 3 going on within advanced energy, and there's other coaches like us. And as your coach, we'll deliver the training. We'll be available for emails or calls or chats or technical assistance, and we'll also conduct the one-on-one calls for the duration of the cohort. So lots of good support for you in your sites. Talk a little bit about training versus implementation and moving from just training to implementation. I like to use the example of Mount Everest. It's very different to sit here in my office in the basement and look at a map and say, I know where Mount Everest is. I know how tall it is. I know how to get there. I know everything I need to take on my trip when I go. That's a lot different from actually going and climbing the mountain. So, training, you learn about things. Implementation, you're actually doing things. And really, this 8-month cohort is really a journey where we'll do both. We'll definitely do training. We'll definitely do education of the principles of 50001, but we'll also work on implementation of some of these principles through the task in the 50001 Ready Navigator. And kind of to see that graphically, if you think about 50001 or energy management, you can start with just some training. We do from 1-hour trainings up to 2 or 3 day trainings. We recently did an 8-week training, but that's basically training without very much implementation. And there'll be training during this cohort, but also we'll be moving up the curve a little bit for working toward 50001 Ready recognition and applying or implementing the 25 task of the 50001 Ready tool. And then beyond that, there's ISO 50001 third-party certification, which is even a little more effort and commitment. And this is a typical path that people go from learning about 50001 to 50001 Ready implementation, which is no third-party auditing. This is all self-attesting. If you do 50001 Ready and you implement the 25 task, you can sign a form that says you self-attest to saying my site did these tasks. You send it into DOE and DOE will recognize you with a certificate, but that's different from ISO 50001 certification, which is a third-party certification body that is accredited certification body that gets you a certificate of certification to 50001, different from recognition. Again, as you move down this pathway, it takes some more commitment, more resources, and more effort to go from just training and reading the map to actually climbing the mountain in person. Again, it's self-attesting. When you do 50001 Ready recognition, you're self-attesting just with your site, people at your site control, and we'll talk about that. You complete the task within 50001 Ready, you mark them complete, you submit the paperwork, just 2 pages, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Similarly, we kind of have developed this from DOE with some input from DOE, the strategic energy management continuum, and the base is broad and lots of people do basic energy management all the way up through superior energy performance, which is a very specialized energy focused, lots of focus on measuring and verifying your energy performance. It's a DOE program, so not many people do SEP. Lots of people do basic energy management, and then kind of here in between is where we are with 50001 Ready. This is ISO 50001 certification, which is a prerequisite to get superior energy performance. But I kind of think about this as like a high school degree, a bachelor's degree, then the blue would be a master's degree, and SEP would be a PhD or doctor's degree in energy management. So many more people do the basics and fewer people do the more rigorous and complex systems. But what's the key to this is, where are you? Where do you feel like you are? And where do you want to get to? Obviously, you all have got some things going on. You've been measuring energy for a while, but now you're participating in 50001 Ready. So you're definitely doing some, or will be doing some implementation. But where are you and where do you want to go? What's your point A and point B? What is your goal to achieve in terms of energy management? And it doesn't matter, there's no right or wrong answer on this. It's just the continuum of where people do energy management. And you may be just starting with some basic energy management and moving up into 50001 Ready. The Better Plants program is a lot of people are involved in that. Energy Star, I know you guys have been working with the Energy Star program. So there's lots of programs in here, And then this is ISO, would be ISO 50001 certification, which is up here, and then superior energy performance. But just, try to understand where you are, what's your site journey going to be like as we go from training and helping you climb whichever mountain you want to climb. Why do we even want to do strategic energy management? Here's some acronyms. You'll see these all the time throughout the next sessions. Strategic energy management, that's SEM. That's what this is all about. Managing your energy. Energy management system, that's what we're building. If you have worked with ISO 14000, that's the environmental management system, which is typically EMS. So, and ISO 14000 has been around a long, long time, but when 50001 came out in 2011 and then was revised in 2018, they couldn't be an EMS because that was already taken by environmental management system. So we added the little N in here, and it's the energy management system. So sometimes you might see an EMS and then ENMS is the energy management system. Significant energy user, that's a big term. I mean, a very frequently used and seen term is very important. This is one of the things you want to be thinking about, and we'll definitely be working to help determine what this are. What is this at your site? Is it some cooling system? Is it air compressors? Is it, if you're melting aluminum or casting aluminum, that certainly could be a significant energy user at your site. And you probably know generally what your big energy users are, but this is something we'll be looking into. Very important, the process for selecting these. And once you do select your significant energy uses, there is downstream work required by the standard. So you don't want to pick 11 of these because it'd be too much work to do downstream. You want to pick 2, maybe 3, depending on your, and we'll talk a little bit about that process. Energy performance indicators and baselines, that's just an energy name for any key performance indicator. Baseline is just the history. You need somewhere to go back to, some stake in the ground, and say, okay, 2018, 2021, some people we work with go all the way back to 2013. It just depends on, but you have a baseline, you collect data, then you have on a particular indicator. It could be, MMBTUs of natural gas used for melting. It could be total energy on the site. It could be an energy performance indicator for total kilowatt hours for air compressors. You pick what you want to track, but the baseline is the history. You track it, an energy performance indicator. You have you can look, and we'll look at that in a minute, how you can compare where I was to where I am. But that's just a measure of how your energy performance is doing. Plan, Do, Check, Act, that's this little circle here. All management systems for ISO are based on the Plan, Do, Check, Act model. 50,001, of course, 14,000, 9,000 for quality. Any of those systems use the same thing, but you plan your work, you plan how you're going to build your energy management system, then you put it into operation. You do what you said you were going to do, and then you check to see if you did what you said. And if you didn't, or if you missed something, or something needs improving or fixing, then you act to fix it. And then you repeat. This is not a project. Oh, we're done. We planned, we did, we checked, we act. We're done. Let's go to the bar and have a beer. No, well, you can do that to celebrate, but you repeat. So when you go through this cycle, then you tweak your plans again and continue. And the repeating is where you get continual improvement, which is the focus and a key point of any management system is you want to have continual improvement. So you plan, you do, you check, you act, and then you repeat. And by that repeating process, you get continual improvement over time. And that's the whole point of having strategic energy management system based on an ISO 50001 standard. Let's talk a little bit about the big picture. I know this is a huge spaghetti chart, but this is the really big picture of total energy consumption in the United States in 2022. It takes them a while to collect all this data, so hopefully we'll get 2023 here in another 6 months or so. They're usually about a year behind, but 100 quadrillion BTUs of energy were consumed in the United States. And basically on the left-hand side is these are all the sources, and then this is where it all goes. And essentially, it breaks down into residential, commercial, industrial, and transportation. Of course, this is where Constellium operates. They're an industrial organization. But you can see, you hear a lot about fossil fuels and decarbonization and net zero and reducing carbon and greenhouse gas emissions and all of that thing. But what this shows in 2022, there's still a tremendous amount of fossil fuels being consumed. Natural gas is this big blue line. Coal is low, much lower than it has been in years. Natural gas is still huge, and petroleum. This is gasoline and diesel primarily, mostly for transportation. This is all the cars and trucks on the road, ships and jets flying. Industrial uses a lot of fossil fuels, not so much coal, but a lot of petroleum and natural gas, and not that much electricity, relatively speaking. Residential and commercial tend to be more heavily electricity, but still a lot of natural gas. The interesting thing here for electric vehicles, here's the electricity generated, and then you follow this brown line to residential, commercial, and industrial, and then there's this itty bitty, barely visible, tiny line. So electrical vehicles are making a little bit of an impact and probably will continue to make a much bigger impact, but still there's a huge amount of petroleum. 25%, 25 quadrillion BTUs of energy is being consumed right now by transportation, and that's all producing carbon that's going right into the atmosphere. So hopefully we'll see this yellow line of electric vehicles improve or increase. But what that means is if this increases, this box up here has to get bigger too and provide that additional electricity to feed that. So this would have to get bigger. And as you can see, the electrical generation uses a lot of fossil fuels. So that is what we call the energy transition. And are we going to build more nuclear, more hydro, more solar, more wind? These renewable sources, are they going to, the intent, I believe, is that they will get much bigger. Natural gas and coal will gradually shrink out, and most of your electricity will be more clean than it is today. So that's kind of a big picture of where the energy starts and where it goes. And like I said, we're right here in this industrial box. That's where Constellium operates and consumes. And again, these are about 25% each, and then residential and commercial together around 21 or 2%. So 26.7 quadrillion BTUs of industrial energy consumption. So why do we want to manage energy? We want to manage it because there's a lot to manage. There's a lot of consumption being done. And you can apply lean principles. You want to make more with less. If you're casting aluminum, if you're making aluminum parts, if you want to make more tons, less MMBTU per ton or per widget. Commercial buildings typically look at less MMBTUs of energy per square foot of building operations. Some people make things by the length, so per linear yard of whatever you're making, ton by a weight or a length or an individual piece. Reducing that energy intensity. Lean principles apply to energy just like they do to manufacturing processes. And also we want our energy to be cleaner and greener, reducing greenhouse gases, reducing our carbon footprint. So why do I have a picture of the state of Texas? This is just to help us understand how much is a quadrillion. It's a huge, huge number. It's a 1 with 15 zeros. So you go from million to billion to trillion to quadrillion. So the federal government spends billions and trillions of dollars on things. So the quadrillion is even beyond that. But 1 quadrillion, think about 1 quadrillion gallons of water. If you covered the state of Texas with 1 quadrillion gallons of water, it would be 18 feet deep. I did a little mini calculation, but that's huge. I mean, think about the entire state of Texas with 18 feet of water on it. That's a quadrillion gallons. So 27 quadrillion BTUs, that's a whole lot of energy. Energy efficiency. This is one of the things we'll talk about extensively, especially looking at energy improvement projects. But the kind of the way to think about this, you pay your energy bill. You get your natural gas, your electricity, and it goes into, this could be your building, your process, a system, the aluminum melting furnaces or whatever. So you buy that energy, and then what do you do with it? Hopefully, most of it adds value to your product. It transforms your product to the next step, and you reduce these losses as much as possible. So with energy management, the first thing you do is try to reduce how much energy you have to bring in the first place, and then you try to reduce these losses. So this amount that peels off and goes up the stack or down the drain or up a chimney or gets wasted or lost is reduced, and then the value added would become a bigger percentage of what you buy. And so there's no way to get this, there's no way to eliminate this to where there's zero losses. You just can't, the laws of thermodynamics and physics and chemistry, you just can't do that. But you do want to work to get as close as you can to 100% efficiency. So if you can reduce how much comes in, increase how much adds value, and reduce this peel off of losses. And again, sometimes it's economically, sometimes it's technically limited on how efficient you can get. Sometimes it boils down to how much efficiency can I afford, because you won't necessarily buy that. If I'm at 97% efficiency, I'm not necessarily going to spend an extra $1 million to get that 97.5% efficiency. So there's economics involved as well as technology. But you want to get as close as you possibly can to the theoretical maximum, understanding you can't get to 100%. There'll always be losses, but you can maximize your effort to reduce your losses. And anything you do to reduce your energy and improve your energy efficiency is going to improve your carbon footprint or greenhouse gas emissions, because energy and greenhouse gas emissions are directly connected, and the energy consumption in industrial sites is the biggest source of carbon for industrial by far. And we're going to look at how that's tied together. But the best way to manage your carbon footprint or your greenhouse gas emissions is to manage your energy. And we'll look at that. But basically, this is how the chemistry works. If you have methane, which is natural gas, is methane, CH4, plus oxygen, which is in the air. So you just blow air in with your natural gas into a burner, you combust it, you get carbon dioxide and water. That is the way the world works. And this doesn't have to be methane. It can be propane. It can be diesel fuel. It can be coal. But any long chain carbon molecule plus oxygen is going to give you carbon dioxide and water. And that's the problem. That's where it comes from. And heat. That's why we use it. It gives us heat, which we need. We need process heating to run our processes and heat our buildings. So that is what happens. If you burn natural gas on your site, then you have direct carbon dioxide emissions to the atmosphere. What about electricity? Okay, I use a lot of electricity on my site, but the electricity at my site is not really generating any greenhouse gases, but somebody's got to generate the electricity for you to consume the electricity. This is the national energy resources used to generate electricity in the United States. And you can see still just in 2022, just not that long ago, it was still over right at 60%, 58.6% of all the electricity was generated with fossil fuels. So the electricity you consume in your plant has a carbon content. Some places, and this is geographically different, some places may have very clean local electrical energy because maybe it's a lot more nuclear, a lot more hydro. I know Canada has tremendous hydro in some areas where they could have very, very clean electricity. Some places probably have much more coal and natural gas in this chart. So this varies geographically from site to site, plant to plant, utility to utility. So to understand how much electricity or how much carbon content your electricity have, you would have to look to your local utility. But basically, if you think about motors are huge in manufacturing plants. They move, they turn, they compress air, they run chillers, they run everything. Anything that needs to turn or move, you got motors everywhere. they're usually 60 or 70% of a manufacturing plant's electrical consumption. Um, but that motor itself is not emitting carbon dioxide, but what it's doing is consuming that electricity is causing the local electrical utility to probably have some type of combustion based on this average. And again, it depends. Sometimes you can run this motor with very clean electricity. Sometimes you run this motor and it might be very dirty electricity, depending on the mix of fuels that are generating the electricity you're consuming for the motor. So energy, managing your energy can really help you, and understanding your energy can really help you understand your carbon footprint. And again, any of these efforts to reduce energy, improve energy efficiency, implement 50,001, do strategic energy management, all that can only help you with any type of goals or corporate ideals and goals, or corporate governance to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. 50,001 and doing this cohort and the effort in 50,001 ready can only help you. So that's a really good reason to do strategic energy management. Again, we've mentioned this before, but continual improvement is one of the focuses of ISO 50001 and 50001 ready. You plan, you do, you check, you act, and you repeat and repeat and repeat. And repeating this cycle many times year over year, you will improve and continue to polish your energy management system. And it really, really does work. It really does work. We see that over and over and over again with all the people that we work with. So why do we pick 50,001 as our choice of tools to go use for energy management? Well, for one thing, it's an international standard. So the whole world has helped develop this standard. It came out in 2011. It was revised in 2018. It is recognized across the world as the go-to standard for managing energy. The 50001 Ready program was based on the principles in the ISO 50001 standard. So 50001 Ready is an implementation-focused interpretation of the shall requirements. This is a requirements document. 50001 is a requirements with guidance and how to use and meet those requirements. 50001 Ready is an implementation and action document. Okay, it says you shall do this. That relates to task one. In task one, this is the things you need to do to meet the intent of that shall in here. And again, it's all based on the plan, do, check, act system. Also, 50001 is based on continual improvement. A lot of times, what we want to do with 50001 as we move forward is embed the energy management into the normal business practices that you do day to day and help retain and build on the energy savings. This is a lot of times we'll see this, oh, we need to reduce our energy. So we do a project and we reduce our energy and then we forget about it and we do another project. And it's kind of like riding a roller coaster. And to get away from that, 50001 implementation really gives you a continual improvement. So you don't really go up and down this roller coaster. You're looking at this intentionally year over year. You're looking at energy improvement projects. You're looking at improvement. You're measuring your energy performance, and you really get a steady trend in energy improvement. Coming back to the energy performance indicator, an energy performance indicator is basically a ruler, and you can pick this to be anything. Like I said, it could be BTUs of natural gas for a melting process. It could be uh, energy used for annealing if you have annealing furnaces for your aluminum or anything. It could be the entire site energy consumption. But basically, you have a baseline, which is this green bar. This is where we were. This is our reference value, and say this is 2020 or 2018. And now in 2023, we've got all our 2023 data completely. We look at where we are in 2023, and this is our value in 2023, and look how much we improved. And by the way, this was our target level. We beat the target by a few percentage, and so the target was achieved. 50001 is very goal-oriented and data-driven. You have data for your ENPIs, you set goals, you set targets. You're not guessing, you're not just lucky. You have intentional processes to help you improve your energy over time. You have baselines, you collect data, then you compare where am I today based on my baseline, and you can evaluate your performance. And these ENPIs can be anything. 50,001, the standard does not dictate you have to have 6 ENPIs and they have to be on these topics. They don't do that. They just say you shall have ENPIs and you shall periodically measure and them against the baseline. You pick what they are, you pick how often you measure, you pick how often you evaluate. But this very important principle of 50,001 is data driven and achieving these targets. One thing, just curious, Bill, you can probably tell me, do any of the sites have ISO 14001 or 9001 systems?
I'm pretty sure they would. I think we're 9001 for our customers, and we're probably 14001 compliant as well.
Okay, so that'll be very, very helpful, especially 14,000. If you have 14,001 environmental management system certification at your site, you can definitely leverage a lot of that information, because a lot of the 50,001 ready tasks that we'll see relate very well with environmental management system, and certainly the principles of an ISO management system would relate to 9,000, but 14,000 is very close to 50,000. So we'll keep that in mind. But again, 50,001 ready supports starting from scratch. We'll leverage and work on. One of the things we teach to is to leverage what you're already doing and don't feel like you have to reinvent something based on the teaching and learning about 50,001. You're probably already collecting energy data. You're very likely already know what your significant energy users are. You probably already have some principles or policies related to environmental or energy. So we want to tweak things instead of reinventing them unless we need to. I mean, if we completely don't have something, then we'll build it. Um, but just to look at a little more detail, similarities, 45,000, by the way, is a safety. That's the ISO safety standard, which you see quite a few industrial plants have ISO 45,000. 9,000 is quality, 14,000 is environmental, 45,000 is safety, and 50,000 is energy. Some plants have all four, and a lot of times you'll see 9,000 it stands alone because it's focused on quality, and then there might be a combined policy or a combined overall manual that combines 14, 45, and 50 together. But a lot of the processes are the same. A lot of the management system topics are similar. There's something called the high level structure, and these ISO management system standards are written to that ISO high level structure. So if you look at section 4 in 14 or 45 or in 50,000, it's the same section. It's the context of the organization. Section 5 is leadership. Section 6 is planning, and so forth. Sections 4 through actually 3 through 10. 3 is definitions and terminology. But anyway, those sections are the same in any standard, any management system standard under ISO. So that makes it really convenient. So if you have 14,000 and have a document 14,000 that's a 4.1, which relates to the context of the organization, it's very easy to take that document and add in a few statements about 50,000, and that could be a shared document. So we'll keep that in mind as we move forward. But some of the things that are basic for any management system, there's typically defining of a scope and boundaries. What are my boundaries and what am I going to manage inside my boundaries? That would be the scope. A top management commitment, very, very important. Some type of related policy with objectives and targets. Awareness and communications, that everything. If you have an environmental policy, you want to make your employees aware and communicate about that. Maintaining a good document and records. Internal auditing, corrective action, management review, that's part of every management system. You're going to check yourself. These are part of checking and acting. Internal auditing and management review, that's when you're checking, you're reporting back up to management how things are going, and continual improvement. So all of these things are very relatable to existing ISO systems. So keep that in mind, especially at the site level. If you have, ISO 14001 at your site, you definitely want to learn from those people. It might be you. You might be the 14,000 person, and now you're adding 50,000. But definitely want to leverage anything you have related to 14,000. So just to summarize a few things about 50,001, you want to organize what you're already doing for energy into your new energy management system. We want to use and leverage what we have and not just, you don't have to rebuild or recreate things. Management leadership is critical for any management system. Having good site leadership and commitment to helping you communicate and be the lead cheerleader for implementing energy management and so forth. Building a team, um, building 50,001 into your daily business practice. 50,001 Ready is great. It has great tools, and we're going to look into that in detail here in a minute. It has a task by task approach to build your energy management system. Proven improvement. There's been studies by DOE about improvement levels. There's 3M was makes sticky notes and tape and all kinds of stuff, but 3M was one of the early adopters of superior energy performance, and they had dozens of sites that were ISO 50001 certified, and they also had dozens of sites that were not. And they compared those over quite a few years, and the sites with a formal 50001 management system tended to be almost double in their energy improvement. I think it was like 12 versus 6% average year over year. So having an organized, focused, intentional energy management system, it has proven results. You will continually improve. There's a dashboard. You can track your improvement in or your progress in 50001 Ready. Great resources, self-attesting, and again, lots and lots of free support from the support team we talked about earlier. But again, we'll focus on leveraging what you're already doing. If the playbook and the task relates to something that you're already doing, then use it, and we'll emphasize that. The 50,001 Ready tool. This is the landing page. Hopefully, let me show you right quick. I want to show you. You should have received an invitation from not from me, but from the 50,001 Ready Navigator about joining the Constellium cohort. So I just want to show you what one of those looks like. Excuse me. So this is one from another group we're working with, but you would get an email something like this uh, from 50,001 Ready Navigator to you, and it would say Michael Stowe invited you to join a project for Constellium 50,001 Ready cohort in the 50,001 Ready Navigator, and then you can click on create an account, and when you click on create an account, you go to this page, and then you click on create an account here, and you put your email address in, you enter your password, and then you have access to the account. And we'll look at that. But I wanted to check, is everyone or anyone done this? Anyone not got access or not have any idea what I'm talking about or not seen an invitation? Um, yeah, I see a couple thumbs up, so that's good. Any questions about getting this access and being able to see inside the navigator, because we teach to that and use that all the time in the next sessions. And this is what it looks like. We have 6 sites. Those are all your sites that are participating. So when you get in, all of you won't be able to see all 6 sites. You'll be able to see your sites. I think, Bill, you can see all 6 sites. But let's go in the actual navigator and just play around and look around a little bit. So when I just switched screens, but it looks the same. So I was looking at my PowerPoint, and this is what it looks like actually inside the navigator. This is your central office view, and there's a central office team. And right now, it's just me and Bill. If you want me to put anybody else on the central office team, Bill, you can let me know. But right now it's just me and you. So we're the only ones that can see the entire structure, but you can see your site. So if we go into Bowling Green, for example, and look at the team, again, Bill and I are on every team, and then Joe is at Bowling Green. So as you guys look at this and think about it, if you want anybody else at your specific site to be able to see in here, or do things in here. The difference is I'll show you. If I go to add a person, you can pick them as a user or an administrator. Administrator can do anything. They can see everything, update everything, approve tasks to be complete. If they're a user, they just can observe. They can look. They can look and see where you are. So as at the site level, like I said, Bill and myself are on every team, and then just the one person that I have, uh, typically one or two people. But if you want me to add anybody to your site in here, or if you want to, you can do it. Because Joe, you're an administrator, so you can add a person as well if you want to, or I can help you see how to do that. So just keep that in mind. But each site, when you go into your dashboard, it's got this these circles. The 50,001 Ready breaks down the tasks into 7 sections. So this one has 3. It's like 3, 3, 7, 3, 3, 4, 2, and anyway, it adds up to 25. So you can see section 1 is the context of the organization. It has these 3 tasks, or you can click onto this one. It jumped into the task, but anyway, you can see these. Oh, here we go. You can see what tasks are in each section. So this one has 7. It's a big one focused on energy, support, operations, performance evaluation, which is all your checking. That's where internal audit is, and management review, improvement. So those are the sections. And then to get into a specific task, you click on the task, and every single task looks the same in terms of layout. So we'll be teaching to these specific tasks in sessions 2 through 7. So 1's kind of an introduction overview. 8 is a review and next steps and where do we go from here kind of session. But 2 through 7 will focus on 1 or 2 or 3 or up to 7 tasks. So one of the things, just to show you, everyone has this Getting Done tab, which I really love. This is really focused on the implementation. So the standard says you shall determine strategic issues. This tells you that you will determine these strategic issues, and then this tells you how to get it done. The what do I do? How do I do it? Task overview gives you more details, and this is a key item here. This tells you exactly where it came from in the 50,001 Ready standard. So task 1 is based on section 4.1 of the ISO 50001 standard. Full description, I kind of call this the example tab. It has, a lot of times the first question people have is, okay, I understand what I need to do, but can you give me some examples of what a external or internal issue is? So you can click on these, and there you go. There's a list, examples of strategic external issues, examples of strategic internal issues, and so forth. So it's got lots of examples. So I almost call it full description, but / example tab. And we'll talk about these each, when we do task 1 in detail in session 2, we'll talk about this in detail. Just for your information, we won't really cover this in detail, but there is a decarbonization information tab. So if you do have decarbonization goals or greenhouse gas emission requirements at your site, you can kind of tie this task 1 to decarbonization by reviewing this section, and it kind of helps you understand the connection. Optional guidance. One of the things here, there's Energy Star, which you guys, I think, have worked with Energy Star. There's some transition tips there. If you do have ISO 14001 or 9000, it kind of relates task. How does task 1 for energy relate to 14 or 50,000? So it's got these transitional tips in guidance. So this is where you can really leverage things. So you can read about this, like 9 and 14,000 contain the same requirements to determine external and internal issues. So if you do have 14,000, you've already looked at internal and external issues. All you need to do for 50,000 is see if there's any other issues to add to that list based on energy or a focus on energy. So these are very useful optional guidance. You can put notes in here. This is where you download the playbook. Every task has a recipe card or a playbook. They call it a playbook. And we'll look at a couple of examples. And you pull down, you just look down, and sometimes it's boxes you check to say, did you consider this, or tables to fill out with lists or approaches or your plans. Um, so that's where you can get your playbook for each task. And then you can assign the task. Again, we don't have like 6 people from each site to share and assign tasks to, but you can assign tasks. So you can assign them all to me. I'll try to help you, but you can assign tasks to others. And this is where you approve your progress. So I'm going to put myself here just to be able to show you, but Joe or Bill, you could put yourself. But when you put yourself in as approver in this pull down box, I picked Michael Stowe. Then if you watch the number 1 up here, I can say that that task is in progress now. That task is ready for review, and that task has been completed. And as we work through over the next 6 or 7 months, those sessions 2 through 7, and you have time to build and implement these, you want to update the status as you go forward. So I'm going to put this back and to not started, and I'm going to put this back to Joe. And then Joe, when you put your name in there, you'll see those same bars up there, and you can do the update to the task. Another thing, when you get ready to get recognized, you don't have to go anywhere else. It's right here inside the 50001 Navigator. So you're within this site, you can click on this. And the first thing, of course, it's going to say is all 25 tasks must be marked complete. So once, and currently 0 are marked complete. Well, that's fine. We're just starting. But eventually, at some point down the future, you'll have all 25 marked complete. And there's it's got information, but down here, you can download the 2 forms you need, and then you upload. This is the only time you ever upload anything to 50001. You get the playbooks and you fill them out and you download them and you use them. You keep them on your server at your site. You don't upload any information back to 50001 ready. The only time you upload anything is when you get ready to get recognized, and there's a self-attestation form and an energy performance, like a 1-page document on your energy consumption. Very straightforward, but it's all right here within the Navigator. You don't have to go anywhere else. You can get your recognition application completed right inside here. And then it's the same for every task. You know, you go to task 2, it's going to have the exact same layout. Task statement, getting it done, task overview with the section of the 50001 standard that applies to this task, full description, again, the example tab, lots of good information, decarbonization related information, optional guidance for 14,000 Energy Star, the playbook for task 2, and also the same ability to update task 2 to whatever status you want it to have. And then every single one is the same. Any questions about 50001 ready tool at this point? So I would definitely encourage you, when you get your invitation, go ahead and get your account set up so you have a password and an email address and password. Some of the things you may want to take a look at is this far right tab, My Navigator, has a lot of great information in it, also frequently asked questions. But in here, you can, there's a getting started information, which is great. Just to give you kind of an overview of 50001 Ready. About the Navigator is more information about the 50001 Ready Navigator. This is a task index. This is good because some people like to just see all the tasks in one spot. So all 25 are here with this is the same description that is on each task tab. So you can see all 25 of them at one time. This is a nice thing too here with the playbooks. If you want to, it talks about the playbooks and how they work. But again, you can download all of them if you want to in one file. It'll give you a file with all 25, and then you can save them somewhere and use them, or you can just download them one at a time as you go through the task. That's fine. But there is a place where you can download all of them at once. So lots of good information. Any questions about the using the 50001 ready tool. And again, we'll go into this every session in more detail. But it's very important and great for you to do when we do like session 2 and cover like task 1. If you can go in, if you can log in and go in and follow along with us, that's very, very beneficial. So we've covered, yeah, we covered, I think, everything. Yep, there is a help desk. I didn't mention that. There is a help desk button right here. Get help. There's help from the central office, which would go to myself and Bill. But there's a 50,001 ready help desk. This would actually go to someone at Lawrence Berkeley Labs, and they'll get back to you. And this, if you have any issues with the navigator operating or using it or finding something, you can always use this help button. Okay, I did want to look at a couple of the playbooks right quick. Give me 1 second. I'll pull those up. Okay, yeah, I thought I was going to do that a little bit later. So I'll do that in a little bit after we go over some other stuff. I was just a little bit out of order. So here's the 25 task. Again, we saw this in the navigator, but this is the list of the task. And if you take the plan, do, check, act circle and unwrap it, it basically goes from left to right. So the first 13 tasks, in fact, this section is even called planning. 1 through 3, 4 through 6, and 7 through 13, those are all planning. So there's lots of planning to get ready to build your energy management system. And then you implement, you do things, then you check. Performance evaluation, as the name implies, evaluation is checking, and then you act to improve. And then, of course, you repeat. So typically, a lot of people that build an energy management system, and you'll see in 50,001 Ready, many times it'll say, at periodic intervals, you shall do whatever, internal audit, management review, uh, check for training effectiveness, check for compliance of legal and other requirements. But it doesn't tell you every 2 weeks, every day, every year. That's up to you to decide. Typically, we see people do an annual cycle. So they'll build their system, they'll start implementing things. Eventually, they'll do an internal audit. They'll check and see how things are going. They monitor and measure and see how they're doing on their targets and trends in energy performance. And then they'll do some corrective actions to make sure they're, fixing anything they found here, and then kind of go back and recheck some things and say, okay, is our energy policy still good? Is our energy team okay? Any other legal requirements? Our scope and boundaries still fit? And kind of do that, plan, do, check, act, repeat on an annual basis. So every year you kind of go through these, checking in on initially, building it is more work, but once you got it in place, you kind of go back and check and look on an annual basis. And that seems to work very well for most organizations. So we're going to talk a little bit about these sections of the standard and the task, a little more specifically about the task. So the context of the organization, this is section 4 in the 50,001 standard. There's 3 tasks related to this, but this can be supported from the central office for sure. Risk and opportunities, identifying those strategic issues. There can be some overarching strategic issues for all of Constellium sites. There could be some site-specific issues. Legal and other requirements that can come from the central office in general, and there may be some other, just depending on where you are, federal, state, county, city that you're located in, there may be some legal requirements for you. Interested parties, who's interested in what you're doing with energy, with greenhouse gas emissions? Who are the interested parties? Is it shareholders? Is it the local, is it the EPA? Is it the local government? Do you have a wastewater treatment plant, which again is environmental, but what types of things do you have at your site that make certain parties interested? You have neighbors, your neighbors in the community. What are your scope and boundaries? Those are the tasks that this kind of focuses on. So it's kind of, what is my organization about? What do we worry about in terms of legal and issues? Who's interested in what we're doing? What are our scope? What are our boundaries? What's the scope of our system? The second section is on leadership, tasks 4 through 6. Again, commitment and guidance from the site leadership is very important. Again, 50,001 Ready is very site focused, so site leadership helping to implement and support you doing the 50,001 Ready is very important. Strong top management commitment to support the energy management system. Having a clear and well communicated energy policy. This top management commitment can come from higher up in the corporation, certainly from a central office or headquarters, and the energy policy. For example, you don't need an energy policy at all 6 sites. You need one energy policy from Constellium, and then you can use that. And a lot of times people that do have 14,000 or 45,000 for safety, they'll have a combined energy, environmental, safety, and health policy. So it just depends on how you want to do that. But again, this is something that can be done at a central office level and then shared with all the sites. And then you say, okay, this is our energy policy. We got it. We're going to do it. We got it at our site. And you can mark task 5 complete at the site. So there is some certainly, and let me go back and show you. On this view right here, these tasks in gray are tasks that can have some form of support from 50,000, I'm sorry, from the central office. So those organizational context of the organizational task, top management, energy policy. 6, the energy team, that's typically going to be at the site level. But some of these tasks the central office can certainly contribute to. 7, 8, 9, and 10, those are very, very site specific. That's site energy, site selection of significant energy users. Uh, I'm sorry, the 7 is risk, site risk. 8 and 9 is energy data and the selection of significant energy users. Site 10 is energy improvement projects, very site specific. 17 is operational controls. That's how you operate your equipment at the site. 14, 15, and 16, those are about, communication, training, documentation. That certainly can have some central office input. Design and procurement, and we'll see that as we talk through those. But there's quite a few of the tasks that central office can help support. So again, leadership, you want to have a good, strong leadership commitment, a well communicated, that's very important, clear and communicated energy policy. Again, it doesn't have to be just energy policy. It can be combined certainly with other related policies, environmental health, safety, and so forth. Resources for the energy team, building that energy team is task 6. Cross-functional is very good if you have, depending on where your significant energy users are, it's good to have some facilities or operations people involved on the energy team, even design and procurement occasionally, sometimes. Because you need help and support to implement energy management system. And again, everybody in the site should be aware of the energy policy and be helping to support the implementation of these things. Tasks 7 through 13 is all about the energy at the site and implementing that and energy targets and selecting SEUs. But basically, what energy comes into my site. I have my scope and boundaries, and this is the pie chart of what I buy. Remember the energy efficiency, the little energy efficiency chart with the losses? This is what you pay for. You bought this stuff. It came into your site. You can't store electricity. Most people don't store natural gas. Some people might have a diesel fuel tank or fuel oil or propane tank, but most of this you consume it as it comes in. And this is you want to be able to generate these 2 pie charts. You want to understand your energy well enough to generate these 2 pie charts. Very important. Energy in is the easier of the 2 because you look at your bills, you look at your invoices for your energy purchases. You total up a year, you convert them all to the same energy units. So we're comparing apples to apples. So this may all be kilowatt hours converted, or it all may all be converted to MMBTUs. But anyway, and then you can see, in this case, it's electricity, 55%, 40% natural gas, and then a few other fossil fuels, some propane, some fuel oil, and some diesel fuel. And getting this should be pretty straightforward. You get your invoices, your energy bills, you add it up for a year, you split it up by types, and do this. Where does all this go? So suppose this is all converted to kilowatt hours and adds up to 48 million kilowatt hours in 2023, for example. So that's what you bought in 2023. So this chart should also add up to 43 million, right? You bought it all, you consumed it. So where did it go? Where did all this energy you bought go? Where did the natural gas and electricity go? What were the big consumers? And again, this is just an example, but this is what you kind of want to be able to do. And we'll talk about ways to do this. But where does all my energy go? And again, I put some melting in here. This is just a rough guess. Melting, boilers, heat treat, painting, perhaps compressed air, heating and cooling, ventilation, HVAC, maybe some welding and fabrication in production, lighting, maybe a wastewater treatment plant, some hot water, for example. But this is just an example. So I bought this in 2023, and this is where it all was consumed in 2023. And being able to do that with the confidence of some accuracy is very, very important. And then based on this second pie chart, this can help you pick and decide on what are my SCUs. What are my significant energy users? Is it melting? Is it boilers? Is it something else? And then again, this is very site specific. It depends on what you are doing at your site to determine what will be your significant energy users at your site. And then based on knowing your energy this well, then that will help you be able to determine, what kind of energy performance indicators do I want to track? If I have melting and casting as a big SCU, do I want to have a specific ENPI for energy consumption for melting or casting? Or something else? Or do I just want to have total site energy consumption? And then again, if you have an ENPI that you've selected, you need to have baseline information, historical information. What types of objectives or energy targets do I want to have? What type of energy improvement projects, am I going to have to improve my energy performance, improve my energy efficiency? Um, and then action plans. Action plans are basically just a method to implement an energy improvement project. And we'll talk about that some more as well. But these two key pie charts are very important part of the building the 50,001 based energy management system and really understanding the energy at your site. And this is very site specific again. Support task 14 through 16. This is where you're starting to do. You've planned and planned and planned. You understand your energy. You understand your organization. You have good leadership. You have a good energy team. And now you're implementing some things. You want to understand the team members across the entire site. Who impacts your energy performance? Are the people that need to be aware, competent, trained? Is all this documented? Different people need to have different levels. Everybody on your site should have at least some awareness that energy is important, that you have an energy policy, that you have some objectives and targets related to energy. People that operate your significant energy users, if they could be facilities and maintenance people, if it's chillers and boilers and air compressors, they could be manufacturing operations people, if it's a process, a heat treat or a melting process, they operate SCUs, they need to understand that. What is an SCU? What does that mean? How do I operate this melting process? Because it uses 40% of the energy at my site and I'm operating it and it's an SCU and I need to understand what do I do with it? How do I operate it? What do I track? What do I measure? Things like that. Training, what training do you need to get for people in these various roles? Is your training effective? Most people have a training system. You don't need to go invent a training record system for energy. I'm sure you have a training system where you have rosters, you collect information on people that attend, what training is. A lot of times it's run by human resources department and so forth. Documentation system, if you have 14 or 9,000 or any ISO system, you have a good documentation system, but basically you want to maintain good documents, a document control, revision control when you revise documents, records of your energy management system, what all the records you collect and data you collect, where do you store that? Again, if you have any type of system already, you've got a good document control system. But if you don't, then you do need to have a good document control for your records and documentation for your energy management system. Operations, this is task 17 through 19. Again, this is more doing. Again, we're doing, implementing. This has to do with operations, the operations of your site. Again, we're going to operate, maintain, design, and procure to optimize energy performance. So this is a very important um, to make sure that, again, if you have SCUs, we talked about, don't pick 11 SCUs, pick 2 or 3. One of the downstream items you have to do is if you pick something as an SCU, you have to have good operational and maintenance controls for your SCUs. So for an SEU, you want to maintain and optimize how you operate that. Say, for example, you have chilled water or a melting process or some kind of process parameters. You may put some upper and lower control limits. You may already have this in place. Again, many places we work already have good operational controls. You just kind of connect the dots back to the energy management system. But you definitely want to identify these criteria, identify these limits, make sure the operators know that, hey, if you're up here or down here, depending on the process, you're out of the band and you're impacting energy significantly. So if you go up here and stay up here, it's going to impact our energy. So we want to stay in the band. So identifying these parameters, identifying these what would be considered a deviation, making sure people understand that, hey, if I go out, I need to do something and get back in. You wouldn't want to see this dot being here, for many, many, many data points. And again, this might be an automated system. This might be a person plotting this every hour. It may be an automated system collecting this point every 15 seconds. It depends on how you want to run things. And you may have a system that says, hey, if I get out of here high or low, it sends a text to a maintenance or operation person's cell phone. There's technology that can do that these days. Again, the operators need to know what to do if these energy expectations, these operational control criteria are not met. You definitely want to operate your SEUs with certain parameters that you decide and make sure they're optimized for energy performance. It's very important and required by the standard and 50,001 ready. Design and procurement, those are two important things, and we'll talk about that a lot. There's a specific task for each one. Design is basically this is not the design of your product. This is, design teams that are adding a machine or adding a new building or adding a new production line. You want to have an energy voice in that process. You want to, if you design a new building or design a new process or a new piece of equipment, you want to specify some things in the design specs early on relative to energy performance. You want this, if you build a new building, you're going to want LED lighting, you're going to want NEMA premium efficient motors in all the equipment. If you have air conditioning units, you may want to specify a certain SEER level, which is an efficiency rating for a typical rooftop or heat pump units, coefficient of performance for a chiller, or kilowatt hours per ton for a chiller, kW per ton for a chiller. And similarly with procurement, you want to work with your procurement team. You want to buy energy smart. Sometimes looking at the life cycle cost of a piece of equipment can determine a purchase decision. One good example is motors. Would you pay an extra $1,000 now for a motor that's a 0.5% more efficient than the cheaper motor? A lot of times procurement teams are focused on first lowest cost. What's the cheapest motor? I want the cheapest motor. Well, the cheapest motor over the life of the motor may not be the cheapest motor at the point of purchase. So would you pay an extra $1,000 for a 0.5% more efficient motor? If a motor runs at 0.5% more efficient over 15 years of motor life, that could save a lot of energy that would offset that initial cost. So thinking in terms of long-term life cycle cost, buying, procuring things based on total cost of operation, not just first cost. Those types of energy related things for design and procurement, and we'll talk about. Evaluation, performance, this is very important. This is your checking. You've built a great system. You've got it out there operating. Some time has passed. It's had some time to operate. And now you want to check. You want to check in and see how are we doing? We want to monitor and measure some of the data that we've collected. Look at the collected data and see, how are we meeting our targets? Are we meeting our objectives? Are we meeting our ENPI goals? Are we showing continual energy performance improvement? How is our management system working? That's more qualitative. Energy performance improvement is more quantitative. It's a number, a percentage. How are your tracking systems working? Are you getting the information you need to evaluate your ENMS and to evaluate your energy performance? Do you need to update or improve your data collection processes and systems? Internal auditing, you do internal audits. Do you find nonconformities? Do you correct those nonconformities? Do you deliver that information during a management review? Management reviews are very important. It's important that top management participate and that you present these to top management. Again, there's quite a few requirements for a management review. Some people I've seen people and we've helped people set up a PowerPoint and there's one slide for each requirement of the standard, and then you covered them all. So you give information to the top management and you ask for feedback from top management. And that's all part of an improvement process. And again, if you get output from these internal audits, corrective actions, and management reviews, if you get output from all of those, then you tweak your system. When you replan, you re-update, maybe you need to add something to a procedure or add some different data collection points to your operational controls for your melting process, or do some better training for your SEU operators, or whatever you find. But it's a continual improvement, thoughtful process, very intentional approach. So this checking is very important. And then from the checking, you take that checking, and when we check, if things are not okay, then we act to fix them. This is the act. And we do this in an ongoing process continually. Plan, do, check. Okay, we checked. We're doing most of what we said. We got a few improvements. Let's improve them. And then we're going to plan and we're going to continue to spiral up with our process. You need a strong corrective action program. Again, if you've got 9,000 or 14,000, you have a corrective action program. You don't need to invent one for energy. You can use one that you already have and just tie into it. But there needs to be a place where you log nonconformities, you have audit finding forms, you have corrective action forms, and you process these corrective actions. You try to find the root cause, what caused the nonconformity, what are we going to do to fix it, check the effectiveness of it, and so forth. And then do you continually improve? Year over year over year, does your energy management system get better? Your energy performance gets better? And you're checking on that. You're looking into that every year, year over year. So let's look at a couple playbooks. This, I thought it was earlier, but it was right here. I'll look at playbooks 8 and 9, and these are examples. These are actually filled out, and we'll send these every time we do a session. We will send these out. These examples, we'll send them out to you, so you'll have them to look at. And again, they look just like this on the slide. They're red and blue, or blue and green. But one of the cool things is right here, this blue box with the white font, that's a repeat of the getting it done from the task. So if you were to look at task 8 in here, and read this getting it done 1 through 6, identify, make a list, and so forth. That's repeated right here, identify, make a list, and so forth. So it really shows you again, this is what you need to do to meet the intent of this task. Here's the do items, action. These are verbs, verbs, action items. And then you go through the playlist. Now this one's filled out. This was based on Fort Liberty in North Carolina. It used to be called Fort Bragg. It's been renamed as Fort Liberty, but it's a major Army base here in North Carolina. It's mainly commercial building type arrangements. They have some light manufacturing, some light processes where they do some painting and repairs and so forth, but it's mainly buildings. But again, identify all the energy types. Again, this is task 8, energy data collection. So what are all the energy types? So they had a bunch, but electricity, natural gas, diesel fuel, those are the typical ones. They had some solar. They had some geothermal for ground source heat pumps and so forth. So you list your energy types. There's some boxes to check. Where's the energy data collected from? And then you list your major energy uses, and there's a table to fill that out. This is also connected to task 9 for SCUs. So you do an initial identification here, and then you determine if it's going to be an SCU. So building heating, water heating, building cooling, those were the main sources. Yours may be very different. This could be melting or casting or welding or processing or chillers or heating. It could be anything, but you'll know for your site. This is just an example where you list your uses. You look at relevant variables. What kind of things can impact your energy? Certainly production, in the case of a manufacturing plant, how much aluminum you're melting in a given day is going to impact your energy. So a relevant variable would be, production or aluminum tons or however you wanted to do it. Cooling and heating degree days are relevant. What this means is a cooling degree day means that it's a very, very hot day and you're going to spend a lot more energy cooling because the cooling degree day number is very high for a given month. In February, cooling degree days are typically very low. You don't need to air condition in February. So the other side of the coin is heating degree days. So if you're heating a building, heating degree days are going to be very high in January and February and non-existent in August unless you're at the North Pole. So heating and cooling degree days can impact you if you substantially heat and cool your building. Otherwise, it's probably going to be something related to production that's a big impact on your energy consumption. But anyway, there's a place to identify that. And then some check boxes, who's going to collect the data, things like that. And then we'll take a quick look also at number 9, significant energy users. Again, the getting it done is repeated right here at the top. And then it talks about we have established the criteria for our SCUs, methods for determining SCUs, the SCUs that we selected. In this case, it was building / equipment cooling and refrigeration. They had a lot of refrigeration because they had so many dining facilities and grocery stores and things like that. Building and water heating. So cooling and heating of whatever were the 2 big SCUs for Fort Liberty. Yours will be different, very likely, and lighting. Lighting was the 3rd one that they picked. And some few check boxes about, who, what, where, details. Anyway, that's 2 examples of the playbooks. And again, we'll share these with you every time we do the ones we cover in the session. We'll share these with you along with the recording, the slide deck, and you'll have all that information available. So again, the playbooks are very, very helpful, very useful in kind of like a recipe card of what you need to think about to implement that task. And if you kind of follow through the playbook, then implement or tie things into existing systems, you don't have to, if the playbook says you need to do this, you may need to do it. You may not need to do it. You may already have it. So it may be connecting the dots as much as, doing something. But when you do the playbook and finish up the playbook, then you can feel like really good about marking that task complete. The playbook really, if you follow through with some due diligence and some attention to detail and connecting the dots to existing systems or building and tweaking whatever new things you might need, then you can really feel good about marking that task complete by using the playbook as a guide. One thing I want to point out, the playbooks are Word documents. They're not PDFs that are locked up. You can modify these if you want to add a bullet, add a statement, make them Constellium versions. You can do that. You can put your logo up here. You can do whatever you want. They're Word documents. So just keep that in mind that you're not stuck with exactly what this says. Of course, you're not going to eliminate 4 or 5 important things, but you can tweak them to match your situation. You could put, for example, there could be a statement here says do this or do that. You could type in and say this is going to be connected to our ISO 14000 procedure number, blah blah blah. You can put whatever you want. That's fine. They're Word documents. And when you download them and save them on your server and your computer, you can modify them to suit how you want to organize yourself. Again, just to kind of overview some of the goals for 50,001 Ready, we've looked at a high level of all the tasks. We'll continually resort back to the 50,001 Ready standard and talk about it and how the standard relates to the navigator. We'll use the 50,001 navigator to complete the 25 tasks. We'll teach to the task in each session. A goal is, of course, to get the DOE recognition by self-attesting. And again, the primary point of doing this is to demonstrate that continual energy performance improvement. And that's not like a nice thing to do. It is, but it's a requirement. The 50,000 in 2018, the new version came out. It says you shall demonstrate continual energy performance improvement, which means year over year over year, you have a good trend up or down, depending on which way you look at it, of your energy performance improvement. And of course, this will improve your overall site energy operations, of course. We do have a few review questions for you. Any questions from you all on anything we've talked about so far today? Okay. So if you would, I see, Bill, I just now saw your comment in the chat about the energy policy. That's great. That works just fine. So hopefully everybody saw that. The energy policy will be written at the plant level and signed by the plant manager. So good. Muscle Shoals has that and can share. I know Muscle Shoals has been through this, so they can definitely be a source and reference of support as well. So if you would use your chat box and just type in your answer to the questions as we go through the review questions. So they're all multiple choice or true false. So you can put A, B, C, D, whatever, and then we'll talk about each one. So question number 1, based on this, remember our little pyramid here, based on the Strategic Energy Management Continuum Pyramid, how should you approach getting started with strategic energy management? Immediately apply for Superior Energy Performance certification. Go right to the top. Start wherever you are and improve from there. Call Oak Ridge National Labs for guidance on the Better Plants, Better Building program, or determine the number of light fixtures in your facility. A, B, C, or D? Please type your answer in the chat. Oops.
Can't seem to access the chat. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you see a little icon with like a little?
Yeah, I can see it on there.
But
I've
it
used it
doesn't.
before, but it says that I left the chat.
Let me see if there's something I can do to help. with that. I think sometimes that happens. Let me see if I can go to your person. No, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know how to fix that. I know there's a way to, anyway, sorry about that. But yeah, everybody's got B. That's exactly right. Start from wherever you are and improve from there. Whoops, is it? Be careful on how this is worded. It is possible for energy to be transferred at 100% efficiency with no losses. So you can absolutely eliminate all of this. It is possible for energy to be transferred at 100% efficiency with no losses. True or false? Yes, that is very false. It is possible to get close, and you should try to get close, but it is not possible for the 100%. There will be a few losses, but we want to try to minimize them as much as possible. Number 3, the ISO 50001 standard and 50001 ready provides an approach to energy management that does what? Is goal-oriented? Is data-driven? Is it require energy performance improvement? It can readily integrate with other ISO systems. It provides a pathway to recognition or certification or all of the above. It does all of this, or it does which ones? Thanks, Bill. Safe travels. Yes, all the above, all of this and more. Absolutely right. Question number 4. If an organization decides to apply for 50001 ready recognition, it is through self-attestation and requires no third-party auditing. True or false? True or false? 50001 ready recognition is self-attestation. That's actually true. There's no third-party auditing for 50001 ready. You can be recognized by applying by yourself through the navigator or being recognized, and you self-attest. You sign a form saying, yes, I did the 25 tasks. So yes, it is through self-attestation. Number 5, the 50001 ready playbooks are Word documents, and they can be modified to suit your organization's specific needs. Yes, that is absolutely true. You can modify them, and you should modify them if you would like to. Number 6, last question. Among many other items, one key requirement of the ISO 50001 2018 version is that organizations shall get third-party certification at all their sites, sub-meter every electric motor over 100 horsepower, demonstrate continual energy performance improvement, conduct management reviews every quarter, or replace all site lighting with LEDs by 2025. Absolutely. C. Yep, C is correct. Demonstrate energy performance improvement. And that is a requirement that you shall demonstrate continual energy performance improvement. All right. Very good. Thank you all for participating. Appreciate it. Aaron or Nick Preston, tell me again which site you with. Are you with Aaron?
Yeah, Aaron, Ravenswood.
Okay, Ravenswood. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
All righty. Looking ahead, the session 2 in about 4 weeks from today, we'll be looking at task 1 through 7. Again, we do a bunch. These first ones are foundational. They're relatively simple and not real technologically heavy. Pretty kind of administrative, building those foundational items. And for example, session 3, we only do 2 tasks, 8 and 9. They're both pretty heavy lifts. So sometimes we'll do a bunch, sometimes we'll do just a few. It kind of depends on the amount and level of complexity of the task. So that's what we'll be doing for session 2. This is our schedule layout, always on Fridays in the morning. These are the schedules. We have 4 sessions, and we have a little bit of a time here. And the reason of the timing of this, we have some what I call open calls. They're not required, but you can call in anytime and check in if you need help or assistance. But this is the time where we would be working on those 2 key pie charts, looking at our energy data, picking our SCUs. So we have some time to work on that. It's task 8 and 9 and 10 through 13 in these 2 sessions here, and they take some time to do that. So we've kind of learned from previous cohorts that instead of just piling on these next tasks right on top of this, we take a little bit of time and have some time for you to call in and check in with you on these, and it tends to help keep things moving forward. And then of course we'll get back into these November, December, and then the last 2 sessions will be early 2025. But again, 2 through 7 will cover all the 25 tasks, and then 8 will be a wrap up, review, overview, and looking at next steps. This is our typical cycle. We have a 4-week cycle. Week 1 is our webinar on Fridays. Then there's a down week, and then there's one-on-one calls. You all should have received a form to fill out your top 3 choices for your time slot that you would like to have for your one-on-one call. Then again, the week 4 is a down week, time for you to work on other things and work on your own 50,001 ready stuff. And then we repeat that 4-week cycle with some exceptions for holidays.
Who would the from be on that survey?
Was that from AE ISO cohorts, Alyssa? I'm pretty sure it would be AE ISO cohorts, Advanced Energy ISO cohorts.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And it's a Microsoft Teams form. You click on the link and you get a form, and you put like your name and your site and then your choices for what slots you would prefer. Great question.
Mike, I don't know that survey ever got sent out, because like I sent the email to you guys, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, asking about it. Because I did search through my email and I couldn't find it. I searched for that AE
ISO cohorts.
cohort.
Okay.
I couldn't find it, but I mean,
We'll send
you guys
it.
sent me the link yesterday, and I was like, oh, this is great. There it is.
Okay, so you did eventually get to it, but we'll resend it, Alyssa. We can resend it, the whole email. We'll send it out to everybody again just to make sure. All righty.
Yep.
So again, this is what we're working toward. We'll have site names in here. So the survey has been sent out. We'll send it again to make sure. If you don't find it or don't get it by early next week sometime, please reach out to me or Alyssa or just AE. You can respond to AE ISO cohorts. We check that every day. But we want to get your input preferences, and then we'll try to match we'll look at everybody's choices and try to match everybody's first choice, and hopefully first or second choice for sure. And then we'll send out an appointment. And so the goal is that, like, if Ravenswood is 10 to 11, then there'll be 10 to 11 every single one-on-one call. So we don't bounce around different days, different hours. So we like to get your time slot, lock you in. We'll send out, this is our plan. Is everybody good with it? And then when everybody's good, we'll send out appointments. And so, whatever site you are, if you're in White, Georgia, Ashley, and you want a certain time, then we'll try to do it. or Aaron, if you want a certain time, we try to match that. For Ravenswood, we try to get as close as we can to what you want, and then we'll send you out the appointment. They'll be all 10 to 11 on all the different Fridays for the one-on-one calls. And then we kind of lock that in on your calendar. So again, please, if you can't find that AE ISO cohort's initial email about this survey, it's a link you click inside the survey email, and then you pick your choices and submit it, and we get the submissions back, and then Alyssa puts it all together, and we try to meet everybody's choices. So Alyssa will send that out again later today or first thing next week, and we'll make sure you get it. And if you don't see it from the history, or you don't see us again soon, please let us know. All righty. Preparation for session 2, we'll send this slide deck out too, and but again, just some things to think about ahead. It would be great. I don't know, you may already have an ISO 50001 document that you can see, but it would be great for each site to have access to an ISO 50001 standard. You can buy them at the ISO store. It's about $180. It's quite expensive for a book, but they send you an electronic version, and then you can keep it and share it with your site. Again, each session, there's not really anything to do here now, but between each session, we always want you to look at your task in 50001 ready, look at this bar and make sure that you have yours up to date with where you are. If you've started and some are in progress, or if some start getting completed as we work from 1 through 25, we are going in sequential order. You just want to make sure these are up to date. Session 1 through 7 is what we'll cover. One of the best things you can do to kind of prepare is look at the getting it done. It's real short, but it does give you a great overview. So again, if you can pop into your account and look at task 1 or 2 and just look at these getting it done, or read the task statement, that kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. These are some of the things to think about. These are related to the tasks, and again, kind of think about what you're already doing, or if you have ISO 14001 in place, what might be related to that in terms of legal and other requirements, scope and boundaries, your energy team. Just kind of think about these things so we can talk about it as we do the task next session. So that's just some thoughts to kind of get prepared for session 2. Again, there can be some central office support for these tasks. Typically there is some, and Bill would probably be coordinating that with the sites. And also the Muscle Shoals, I don't think, is Muscle Shoals on the call? I don't think so, but they have done some of this. They've been through this with TVA, and so they have probably some examples, and we might get them to help kind of share maybe what they did. Participation or data collection, we have sent out surveys. We've got a few back. The initial email went out with 2 survey links. One was for individuals, that's for every participant, and one is for each site. So the individual one's pretty short. Again, you click on the link, you follow the directions, you go to a browser, and then you can click on the survey. So there's one for individuals and one for each organization. We sent these out, I think Monday on June 17th. But as soon as you can complete these 2 profile surveys, it'd be great. Again, one's for each individual, one's for each site. So if there's 2 or 3 people at one site, you each don't need to do a site survey, just one of you. So you can kind of talk about that and decide who's going to do it. Not every individual needs to do a site survey. In some cases, there's just one person per site, so it's not an issue. The survey is a little longer for the site. Things that are going to be coming up in the next period. We do have a gap assessment, and basically this is a tool based on the 25 tasks. You look at that, think about where you are, and you score yourself. This would be at the site level and probably one at the central office level. Again, just one per site, not one per person. And there's a pull down menu, and we'll look at it in session 1. This is session 1. We'll look at it and send out the instructions. And again, there's pull down menus where you score, it totals your score. And then we do another gap assessment in about 8 or 9 months from now. And hopefully there's been improvement. So here's where we are now. Here's our score now. Then we do some things to build our energy management system, and then we redo the gap assessment, and the gap is smaller. There's less gap. Also, energy performance improvement report. We do this just sections 1 and 2 after session 3 when we talk about energy data collection. But this is basically just a snapshot of 1 year of energy consumption. So basically, you pick a year like 2023. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and you put in your electricity, your natural gas, whatever your big energy sources are. And we'll talk about that more. It should be very quick. If you have good data collection already, you should be able to gather this pretty quick. Again, the gap assessment, it does take a little bit of time to complete. It's quite a few items to read through and check on. Any questions? That is all of the content. Anybody have any questions about anything we covered or the process or anything at all? All righty.
I'm sorry, you say you were going to resend the survey?
Yeah, I can.
I'm looking for it in my stuff right now.
Yeah, I can. I'll send a reminder out for the survey probably early next week.
Okay. I'll probably find it's probably in here somewhere.
Yeah, if you sort by from, it should come up in the AE cohort, ISO cohort. Paul, what site are you with, Paul?
He's at Ravenswood as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, thanks. Do you want, Aaron, do you want me to include Paul and Preston on all the emails and appointment invitations so they can join?
Yeah, if you could.
Moving
I can
forward.
forward it to them if they don't have it. Yeah, I
Okay.
just sent it to them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Paul is my manager, and Preston will be here hopefully till the end of August, and then come back after he graduates. So
cool. So Aaron, you're gonna facilitate getting all the other sites intern. Is that right? Is
yeah.
Since you figured out the process.
I just got fortunate.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. All righty. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great weekend, and look for some more follow-up emails and for the